yourself for our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Paul. I'm the business development lead at dYdX Trading Inc. Been with the company for about 2 years. Come from a semi-technical background. I studied physics in college and then worked in investment banking for a little bit and then came to dYdX.
Thank you. What was the first coin that you bought and when was it? Why did you buy it?
Yeah, probably to no surprise, my first coin I bought was Bitcoin back in 2017. It was like the first bull market I was ever kind of a part of. I was in school and I feel like not too many of my friends were talking about it. But yeah, me and a couple friends were really into crypto, mostly because we just saw like money returning our bank account. We had no money at the time. But yeah, I feel like still a lot of infrastructure built in crypto is built around trading Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was the first foray into crypto for a lot of people. Obviously, it has a lot of staying power.
Thank you. So what is dYdX? What do you think made dYdX the most powerful open exchange out there?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So today, dYdX is a perpetuals exchange built on layer 2 on top of Ethereum. For those who don't know what that is, a perpetual is a futures contract that never expires. And there's a very simple way to think about it. It just basically gives you exposure to any underlying asset. All you need is liquidity, meaning dollars, and a oracle price for whatever the underlying is. So if you just want to take exposure to Bitcoin or Ethereum, or it doesn't even need to be digital assets, it could be equities, prediction markets, whatever. You could have a perpetual trade based on that price. You just need to know whatever the underlying price is. And then you're able to trade that asset either positive correlation, negative correlation, which would be shorting, with leverage, etc. So currently, yeah, dYdX is a perpetuals exchange built on a layer 2 scaling solution on top of Ethereum. But dYdX came a far way. Our first product was flash loans, and we actually invented the flash loans all the way back in 2017. Then we built the first DEX aggregator on Ethereum, and then we launched a Solo, our product called Solo, which was a margin trading product on Ethereum. Kind of got crushed by Uniswap, and then decided to launch this L2 perps exchange. So yeah, I guess we could talk a little bit about what the next version of the protocol is if you'd like, but that's kind of the current state of affairs and the current state of the protocol.
Thank you so much. dYdX is in process of becoming an app chain. So what are some advantages of becoming a standalone app chain?
Yeah, there are a lot. I think one of them is you can basically craft the infrastructure to fit the needs of the application. And I think it's rare that a company has as many resources, especially in crypto, as dYdX does. And we're very lucky because of previous success. But it allows us to be very specific about some of the infrastructure choices that we choose. For example, something kind of novel that dYdX is doing is the order book will actually exist off-chain in the internal memory of the nodes. So dYdX is an advanced trading product because it's a full order book model. So a lot of advanced traders like market makers and high-frequency traders, some of the big names you know, trade on dYdX because it's very high throughput. But that requires a very high, an allowance for very high throughput in the infrastructure. So currently, like our order book is off-chain, but in a centralized server, and market makers love that because they could trade very fast, but it's not decentralized, obviously. So what the app chain allows us to do is come up with this architecture where the order books will exist off-chain in the internal memory of all of the nodes. So it's decentralized because everyone has a replication of the order book, but it's also off-chain, so you're not bottlenecked by consensus, because that is the bottleneck of the throughput of pretty much any blockchain.
Thank you. That was really informative. dYdX just released a public testnet, so was there any difficulty in the process?
Yeah, there are a few things. I think when you're launching a piece of software for any time, there's definitely going to be some bugs, and I think the testnet launch went very smoothly, but that's the reason you launch a testnet is bugs, right? So it's kind of the name is in the process. So there were some difficulties there, but those were completely expected. Yeah. I think coordination around validators. So when we launched mainnet, dYdX Trading Inc. will just ship open source software. We're not going to be involved in deploying the protocol. So coordination won't have to take place through us, but the testnet is a dYdX Trading Inc., like our tech company. It's our activity. So we had to pretty much do coordination for all the validators, and you guys know you're one of the validators on our testnet, and yeah, it just requires a lot of information and coordination there. So I could say that's probably one of the most difficult processes.
Okay. Korea does not have any perpetual exchange yet, so a lot of Korean traders have been using like Binance or FTX before. What would be some advantages of using dYdX over that kind of like centralized exchanges in terms of user experience?
Yeah, really good question. So I think this is the entire benefit of crypto, right? This is the entire use case, which is non-custody, right? Before crypto, the only way you could custody assets is basically self-custody assets. It's like physically, right? You can own dollars or you could own assets. But if you wanted to digitally be able to have possession of money, you had to store it on a bank or on an exchange or on a brokerage.
Right.
But finally with crypto, we have private keys and we could we could self-custody our assets. And that's an amazing thing, right? So who would want to trade digital assets on a centralized exchange? I think it's a great bridge for people who haven't had the experience and knowledge of onboarding to crypto for the first time, because it's very familiar. And the familiarity is a beautiful thing. However, the entire use case of crypto is self-custody and having smart contracts, so permissionless code. And the permissionless nature of dYdX is the best part about the product experience. And it's one of the most difficult things because it requires a transition of new knowledge and it requires incentive to be able to onboard to this new infrastructure. But once you're onboarded, the product experience is just way better because you could self-custody your assets. You don't have to worry about the fraud that took place at FTX. You don't have to worry about anyone locking your funds because they're always in your possession.
Sure.
And the goal for the next version of the protocol is to make everything permissionless, like have asset listings be permissionless. Anyone can launch assets. And obviously, like that's somewhat of a pipe dream because you need to bootstrap liquidity in the markets, but dYdX is thinking of creative ways to bootstrap liquidity to permissionless markets. And a lot of other things like just being able to also have ownership in the protocol, right? Like I feel like FTT and BNB, like sure they did this like burn like they burned they burned protocol tokens, but the tokens really had no other use case, right? With dYdX, we're a governance token, you have ownership in the decisions of the future of the protocol. So I think those are the main reasons why someone would want to use dYdX.
Thank you. That was amazing. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay. What are some important next milestones for dYdX?
Yeah, so we're actually using the same phrasing internally. So we're calling different parts of the process for V4 launch different milestones. So milestone 4 marked the end of a working public testnet or full completion of features for public testnet. So that launched a couple weeks ago, as you guys know. Next will be milestone 5, which is completion of features for mainnet, and that will take place hopefully end of September, maybe early October. But yeah, optimistically and currently we're thinking optimistically will be end of September. And that will include advanced order types, dynamic funding rates, which I think we already have, but just more robust nature of the funding rates. Obviously like protocol launch, etc. But yeah, finishing the open source software that it is ready to be deployed. So that is M5, and then M6 we have a bunch of features slated, such as like hopefully permissionless market listing and like maybe even more markets, order types, etc. Maybe hopefully multi-asset collateral eventually. But yeah, those are the major milestones for dYdX v4 or the dYdX chain.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you for the interview.
Yeah, of course, it was a pleasure.